for Shane Warne. And he's done it.
We would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the lands on which we meet today and pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. We extend that respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people listening in.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Aussies Abroad on the B Sample Sports Network. Guys, this week we have an NBA season preview lined up for you. A good friend of the show, Luca, Angelis, comes on to talk about his job covering the LA Lakers and the upcoming NBA season, which I believe starts on Wednesday. Is that correct, mate?
Yeah, I believe so. It's come up really quickly. And thank you for having me on your show.
Yeah. Thanks, mate. Look, just tell us a bit of sort of how you got started with your writing and sort of where it's all going for you at the moment and how you ended up covering the Lakers.
So it started with my own sports blog, which actually came about. I'm in a few sports group chats, one of which I'm with Bo. But I've had like a couple, some that were kind of basketball specific. And my best mate Ryan and him and I specifically would get very passionate about some of our stuff. And then like a close friend of ours, his name's Matt, he was like, you guys have a lot of really good opinions and actually make some good, even when you're on opposite sides, you make well-reasoned arguments. You should start a sports blog. And I was like, I know a bit of HTML through like how websites work through my day job. So I was like, you know what, let's just give it a crack. So we did that and a few other, so we just wrote our own articles. A few other boys joined us, and you know we had some success. Like we had some it didn't go gangbusters, but I mean we had a little following. We had a few guest writers. We had a couple of articles blow up on Reddit. Like we had one from a guest writer that was on the top spot on the NBA subreddit, and we ended up getting like a few 100,000 views from that one.
Beautiful.
So we did all right, but it got to the point where so me and my friend who started it, and then the two other boys who joined us, like the other three kind of tailed. I mean, as you're probably aware, like life gets in the way and, you know, you're not doing it to get paid. So yeah, you're competing priorities. And so I got to the point where I was the only one writing and I'm like, well, it's tough to do. So at that point I was like, I might just throw my hat in the ring for like an established blog. So I saw that I Googled like, you know, how to apply for sports blogs and I saw that Fansided. So Fansided are probably one of, if not the biggest, they're up there with SB Nation as like the biggest kind of like fan driven sports blog network. And I just, you know, having my Sideline Spice, which is the name of my blog, that was almost like a living, breathing resume. So like I just put three of my pieces of work from there, including a piece I wrote about Kobe the day after he passed away. Like I just put them in my application, and then a couple of days later, they're like, "Yeah, we want to give you a job writing, like it's as a freelance writer." Yeah. So that would have been in May. I'm going to say last year, I think. I think it was May last year. Yeah. And so it's So from then on, like I've been pretty consistent with creating like writing content for them. And through that, I kind of picked up other stuff as well. Like I did a few pieces for Sideline Sources, their Instagram's pretty big and their website's kind of growing. Yeah. And I did a show for Sports Talk Line, like I did a couple of articles and I did a radio like podcast kind of thing for Sports Talk Line. Nice. I did 8 YouTube videos, but everything's kind of dropped off the last 2-3 months because I've been looking for a house and, you know, pandemic stuff has gotten in the way. So I haven't written anything in a few months, but now that's kind of dying down, I've spoken to my editor at Lake Show Life, which is a Lakers blog I write for. So I think, you know, starting next weekend, probably seeing as the season will have started, that the writing will start back up again. I mean, it remains to be seen if I'll be doing the YouTube videos again anytime soon, because there's only so much you can do at once. But the Lakers writing is something I've missed. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to getting back into that as the season starts.
100%, man. Speaking of the season starting, as a Lakers fan that has a stacked team, I guess you could say, albeit older and on the average age. How do you feel about the team itself going forward? How do you think the age of everyone's going to affect their season, and where you kind of power rank the Lakers and your expectations?
It's going to affect it a little bit. Like I'm nervous. Like, as in, I do think we should be a playoff team. I mean, we made it last year with less talent on paper and a bunch of injuries. But at the same time, it's, the average, like basically every key role player is old. Our biggest superstar is also old. We've got, I mean, Anthony Davis is the only player in his prime. And I guess Russell Westbrook is kind of like at 33, I think, so it's kind of late prime. It depends on, honestly, a lot of it depends on how the players mesh and what Frank Vogel's rotations are. Because I'll give you an example. Malik Monk's like, 23 or something like that. I think he should be starting shooting guard because he adds floor spacing dimension to the team. And
From Charlotte.
He was in Charlotte, yeah. And he's a great shooter, and he's actually got some upside, but I'm worried that, we might be stubborn and push out Ken Bazemore or Trevor Ariza or even Carmelo Anthony with too much minutes. So I guess a lot of it's, I mean, coaching always matters, but with a team that has like a rotation of like 12 players who could feasibly be in the rotation, coaching's probably going to matter more than any other team. And in terms of power rankings in the West, I mean, you'd still have to put Phoenix ahead because Phoenix, the number 2 seed last year, and they coming off an NBA Finals appearance. Most of their core, aside from Chris Paul, still before their prime. The Jazz, I mean, they might not be built for postseason as much, but they're still the number 1 overall seed last year. So you've got to respect that. Teams like the Warriors should be a lot better. I mean, they might not get back to as good as people might expect them to be because Clay's not going to be back to start the season, but I definitely expect them to be better than 8th, which is where they finished before the play-in. So I guess, I mean, even the Clippers should still be decent without Kawhi. But I mean, I guess I'd probably put the Lakers number 2 in the power rankings, but that could easily tumble. And out east, there's teams that are probably deserve to be higher. Like you mentioned, I don't think you didn't mention the Nets today, but I know off air you've mentioned the Nets to me before. Bucks, obviously, who just won a title. Philadelphia are a maybe. Depends on, number 1, if Ben Simmons shows up, and number 2, if they do get a trade for him, what they get back. And
I think we can assume Ben Simmons is turning up, right?
I think he's going to turn up because he was losing too much money, but I think it's a matter of time till he gets traded.
Yes,
I mean,
so he's actually turned up. He was supposed to play in their last preseason game, which was yesterday, I think, but he didn't. I think they've opted to keep him not there. So he's technically there, but he's not part of the team as yet. And I believe he's apologized to them all, and they've all sort of had a bit of a go at him about it. So it's very awkward situation. Yeah.
But and then Atlanta as well. I think like the team that knocked off Ben Simmons in the Sixers. People are kind of writing them off as a fluke. I'm, Oklahoma, big Trae Young fan. So a little bit biased there, but I think Atlanta are really stacked as well. So there's a bunch of teams that you could feasibly put ahead of the Lakers. I mean, Miami wildcard too. But if everything pans out, they do have a decent shot of making the final. But I do think that their window's probably a 1-year window. I don't think next year onwards they're really going to be a chance.
You've literally just named like 28 teams in the NBA and failed to name Chicago. These are all the guys that are at 10, and you haven't given Chicago any kind of credit.
Chicago are a wild card.
I don't like you at all as a person and an analyst and a writer.
Let me talk about. I know you're a Chicago fan, so let me give them some lip service. They've probably got the widest range of outcomes of any team because they've got the most new players of any team. They only had Vooch after the All-Star break last year. They didn't have Lonzo last year. They didn't have DeMar DeRozan last year. Patrick Williams is a second-year player. They've got...
Who's looking great.
He did. But that was summer league. He's not going to score like that when he's like a 5th option. But he is a good player. On paper, they should be probably like a 5 seed based on that starting lineup. And obviously, my man Alex Caruso coming off the bench. But
let's go.
It remains to be seen how much defense that Chicago team can play. Like, I don't think any of those starters are a good defensive players. And Levine's probably one of the worst defenders in the league. And I love Levine. I wrote a huge article about him for Lake Show Life when there was when there was rumors of him going to the Lakers. So look, wouldn't surprise me if Chicago finished with a top 4 seed. Wouldn't surprise me either if they were a playing team. But I don't think they'd go low. I don't think they'd go lower than the playing. Like, I think their range of outcomes is like that 4-5 seed to about the 10 seed. But yeah, they'll be fun. I'll watch them with lots of interest this year.
Yeah, look, you sort of touched on the thing we're going to talk about next, about the challenges around for the Lakers and other teams. Is it going to be difficult for the Lakers being so old? And you sort of touched on the rotation, but is it going to be more shorter games and have them all together on the field, or are they going to space them all out more throughout the season? Because we see, like, the year the Warriors broke the record, I think they went, was it 72-9?
73-9, yeah.
73-9. And I was arguing with someone the other day, then I said that the Lakers have got the talent to do that. They just haven't got the age. They're all old as now. So the chances of them getting the record are potentially there if they're all fit, they're healthy all year, but they're just old.
Yeah, I don't think that's even feasibly possible for the Lakers, because if you magically brought LeBron back to age 27, 28, and Westbrook was like an MVP season, Westbrook from Oklahoma, and New York Knicks, Carmelo Anthony, and like championship winning Trevor Ariza, like if you put everyone in their primes, Dwight Howard, I mean, I'd actually say that team would beat the record. But as it stands,
it's something we haven't seen, right? Is a team get put together that is all like at one stage your starting lineup was superstars, but they were kind of veterans. I haven't seen it, I don't think, in any sport.
It's funny you say that. The Lakers had that exact same thing in the Shaq and Kobe days, where they rounded out their rotation with Karl Malone and Gary Payton. They made the finals as the favorites, and they lost to the Detroit Pistons, who didn't have a single superstar. They got blown out. It was 4-1. It was like, I mean, they were close games, but it's still a bloodbath like of a series. So, like, I've seen that team that had chemistry issues for a lot of the season. They clicked in the second half of the season from memory. It could be similar type of deal here. So, I mean, I don't think they're going to be good enough and dominant enough to have the luxury of resting guys like those really good teams. I think they'll try and stagger players and rest them where they can. But I think, it's not going to be like where they're so far ahead in the 1 seed that they can give LeBron scheduled nights off all the time. And like if they're locked into a seed, then they'll probably try and rest them more. But having said that, I think the rotation players might because they've got so many rotation players, they might take advantage of that depth and try and give the rotation guys nights off more.
Yeah.
So
Beautiful.
Makes sense, actually. Yeah, makes sense. So if we could, just my question is just to touch on a few of the guys, the Aussie guys, because obviously here at Aussies Abroad, we're kind of trying to focus on the Australians killing it across the world. So a couple of Australians that you would like to touch on in the league. You don't need to name them all, or just guys to look out for and your expectations, how much they're dominating. I guess if we could really go on Josh Giddey, that's
just kidding.
He was the main one I was going to talk about. I did want to do a footnote on Dante Exum because he just got cut by the Rockets.
We were talking about that earlier. Yeah.
So I'd love him to get a chance somewhere. Like I know he's still a bust compared to where he was drafted, but he showed me he was a key part of us winning bronze at the Olympics. He was like one of the heart and souls of the team. And I think even though he might not be the star that we thought he was going to be, I think he belongs on an NBA roster somewhere. So even though I'm not going to talk much about him because he's not on a team at the moment, I do think he should be on the team.
Yeah.
But to talk about Josh Giddey, so this is going to be, I mean, it's probably too early to take a victory lap because he hasn't played a single regular season minute. But there's written proof. I had him projected at number 7 in my mock draft for Lake Show Life, going to the Warriors because I thought he'd be a really good secondary ball handler to Draymond. That's the pick that most people kind of argued with me with. They're like, oh, he should be late lottery. And I'm like, it's not people don't respect the NBL for the league it is.
Yeah.
I've really gotten into the NBL the last few years. I grew up watching it as a kid, stopped watching it for a while when the league was kind of finding its way again. And in the last 2 or 3 years, I've become a diehard again. Even LaMelo Ball struggled in the NBL.
Yeah.
And that made me realize how good the NBL was, because I thought LaMelo was going to suck as a rookie because of his struggles in the NBL. Best rookie last year. I think Josh Giddey was just as impressive as LaMelo Ball in the NBL. He was actually a better passer. Probably not quite the scorer and athlete, but he led the whole NBL in assists as a teenager. So I said to everyone, look, he's got some athletic deficiencies, but his IQ for his age is off the charts. He's got a shot that looks like it will come good one day, even though he's not a consistent shooter yet. And like Bo was hinting at before, he killed it in the preseason. I think he averaged 14, 7, and 5, which is pretty bloody good for a teenager.
I'm gonna put you on the spot because I'm not sure if you know. Do you know his measurements?
I think he's like 6'8". He's skinny. I think don't quote me on this, but I think he's like 6'8", but he's sub 100 kilos, which is like a bit of an issue. Do you mind if I Google it on air, or are you gonna look it up afterwards?
I'm doing it right.
Gosh, Giddy. All right. See how close I got. Yeah, he's 6'8". Cool. And he's 93 kilos.
There you go.
Hell
nice.
yeah.
You go.
Nailed it.
I nailed that. He is a little bit undersized. He is going to get physically pushed around a bit as a rookie, but I mean, happens to a lot of players in their
we do
season.
see these people come in the league and put on a lot of weight quickly.
I mean, do you guys remember Giannis as a rookie? He was a twig.
Yeah.
It was Donny.
Oh.
Yeah. So look, mate, you sort of touched on a couple of the Aussies there. Give us a name of someone that's underrated. It can sort of be with any team. I know you're having a few fantasy drafts this afternoon. So give us a name of someone that you're looking for in your fantasy, or someone underrated too.
This guy I haven't gotten anywhere, but I'll give you two guys that are underrated. One is Robert Williams, aka the Time Lord. If you don't know, if your listeners don't know why he has that nickname, it's because I think he was late to a team meeting and he missed he's late to team meetings and he missed a flight or something. So people just said he's not late, he's just manipulating time. So it's it's one of the wildest nicknames in the NBA. He's a guy that I actually really wanted the Lakers to take the year he came out, and it broke my heart because he went to the Celtics, who are their biggest rival. Athletic freak. I think last year I was kind of like a mini breakout, but the thing is he didn't play enough minutes to kind of have it be a full breakout. But he's per 36, he was averaging 15 points, 13 rebounds and 3 assists and 3 blocks. Pretty monstrous numbers, and he's locked into. He signed a $54 million extension with the Celtics over the summer. He's locked into a timeshare with Al Horford, but I think they'll probably both play 24 minutes a game, and he's gonna. Yeah, he's a freak athlete, and he looked like he was starting to put it together last year. So he's one guy, and the other guy is Jordan Poole from the Golden State Warriors. Okay. He showed flashes last year. But he's probably been the player of the preseason this year. He shot 50%, over 50% from the field and 40 from 3, and he's been 23, 3 and 3 with over a steal a game. He's a really, really good shooter. I don't know how Klay Thompson's going to missing more than a year from the game. In fact, 2 years from the game, basically. Long time to be out. So I think even when Klay comes back, Poole's going to have a role. Best case scenario, you could have 3 Splash brothers. It could be the Splash triplets or something.
Nice.
So he's a big part of why I think the Warriors will be a pretty good team this year.
Love it.
Yeah, good.
Very nice.
Right. So we've got LeBron's son just turned 17. So he's probably he's a couple of years away from joining the NBA. Do you reckon LeBron's still going to be around when his son joins in? Is there any chance of that? And how exciting would it be to see? I reckon.
So it's funny. So I think LeBron will be around, but his son's actually not a very good prospect. As in, he still should get drafted, but at the moment I don't even think he's projected as a first rounder. The highest I've seen him projected is late first.
Yeah.
And I've seen him commonly projected in the second round. Like that's what ESPN projects him.
Yeah.
Like he's bouncy, but he's a bit undersized, and he's not like his father. So I do think LeBron will be around, but because if his son was like this uber talent like him, I think teams would take the package deal kind of discount. Whereas, like, hey, we'll deal with like 40-year-old LeBron, who's still, he'll probably still be a handy role player by that point, but he won't be the star that he is now, in my opinion. But hey, we've got this super talent as a result. But because Bronny's not been quite the player people are expecting, it's tough to gauge whether the Lakers will be the ones to oblige. But having said that, there's precedent for it with Kobe's final contract. He clearly wasn't a max player at that stage, but it was like hey, thanks for your service to the organization. Here's $30 million a year. So the Lakers might end up being like, hey, you brought us a championship in a pandemic. LeBron, we'll draft your son. So
give him a shot. It's a bums on seats. It's a publicity thing anyway, at worst, right?
It is. Like people will want to watch it. I mean, people still talk about LiAngelo Ball. He's on the Hornets now, but he and I think he could end up being a bench player in the NBA. But I mean, he's clearly not as good as his brothers, but because of his surname, people talk about him. Yeah. So same thing could definitely happen with Bronny. But from if I put the cold hard logic of being a basketball fan aside and look at it from an emotional perspective, it'd be sick to see a father and son play together.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think the only time I've seen that was in the NBL. I think Darryl McDonald played with his son.
That's what I was going to ask you to do if you'd ever seen it. Yeah,
it's the only time because Darryl McDonald played till like 45 or something.
Nice.
So Darryl McDonald Senior and Darryl McDonald Junior, I think his son was called. The only time I've seen it at a professional level.
Yeah, nice. Very interesting. All right, so look, I've got a question for you. I'm going to ask you this one that everyone gets when they come on the show. Do you keep your tomato sauce in the cupboard or in the fridge?
I'm a fridge man.
It's got that's right. That's the correct answer.
Yeah,
it adds like you say, like I've got a steak, like a sausage sanger or whatever. Yeah. The coolness, like
thank you.
Nice contrast.
Yes. That's the correct answer. You are welcome back anytime. Very nice.
I'm so glad you guys are fridge people.
Yeah, we're fridge. Yeah.
If you were cupboard people, I would have probably asked to edit my show.
Go on. Yeah.
We've got another member of the show, and she's a cupboard person, so that's why she's not on at the moment.
But she's not around today.
Yeah, she's gone. Yeah. I was also going to ask you before you go, give us a tip: who wins the East and who wins the West?
You know what? This is going to be boring, I guess. So I will say Nets and Suns, just because Suns did it last year. Yeah. I think Nets would have done it the year before if they didn't have injuries and if Kevin Durant didn't have clown-sized feet. If we're talking about
gets a jab.
Yeah, if we talk about a dark horse from each conference, I will say Memphis could surprise a lot of people. They've got John Morant's a third-year player. Jaren Jackson Jr. is young. They've just got a bunch of above-average players on their roster. So Memphis could be the surprise packet of the West. Surprise packet of the East. I mean, not so much a surprise, but Miami's hey, watch out. Like they're a year removed from the finals. Got Kyle Lowry, Tyler Hero's in his third year, and they've got a pretty stacked young bench. So they're my team to watch out for, kind of thing. Like could surprise everyone in both conferences, because I feel like my conference picks are boring. So I feel like I owed that to you guys at least.
I think I would have had the Suns as well. I think they're looking very strong again. So I don't think the Lakers won a preseason game at all.
0-6.
Yeah, 0-6 in the preseason. So
yeah, like preseason doesn't mean anything, but at the same time.
That's right. The Dallas Cowboys, they went 0-5 in preseason and are now 4-1. So
I'm a Ravens fan and asked Bo about how the Baltimore Ravens legendary preseason streak. I think it's 23 straight preseason games they've won.
That's fantastic.
This is not the week to discuss Baltimore Ravens.
What happened to your Colts, mate? I didn't see it.
They got so.
Did you watch it?
So we can wind up the show by saying Lamar Jackson absolutely passed all over the Colts in second half. Bo and other mutual friends is also a Colts fan, were ragging on me. And then Lamar Jackson just was like, "No, fuck this."
Unbelievable.
Oh, come
Unbelievable.
on. If you're going to take a shot at us, and I quote, this Ravens team is so fucking shit from you. Why you're losing and then get up and you're like,
But we were. Hey, I still think we're not as good as the 4-1 record that we have, but it's I will take it. With the fact that Lamar Jackson beat you with his arm is like the best thing that could have happened to me this year.
He was
I am a
so
Lamar fan. Come on.
Very nice. I love it. All right,
Anyway,
mate, look,
that's your first and last interview you ever had with us.
all right, Bo, is there anything else that you want to ask? Happy?
No, that's all good. Thanks for coming on the show, mate. I don't like you very much as it was before we started here. And now
Don't like you now
afterwards,
either.
I like you less.
Beautiful. Do you want to tell the good people
Hope
where
you
they
get
can
split
find
my
you?
mate, boy.
Do you want to tell the good people where they can find you on your socials?
Yeah, sure. So best place to find me is on Twitter. I don't tweet as much as I should, but it's there.
That's good.
It's Sideline Spice LD. And on there's I think there's a link to my my Lakers writing, and basically all my articles that I write, there's like links on there from my Twitter. So it's probably the best jump point for that. And yeah, keep your eyes up. If you want to see my writing, keep your eyes out for Lake Show Life. There should be articles starting up again after a bit of a break. And yeah, I'm happy that you guys put me on the show, and I'm excited for the season.
Very nice. Well, thank you very much for coming on, mate, and we'll see you again soon.
Sounds good. Thanks, boys.